Listen, what has Poch done to the Chelsea tactics and why is it not working? More importantly, how does he fix it? Let's take a look. Many of the Chelsea and rival fans are wondering how any club can spend £1 billion in the last 3 seasons and actually potentially get worse. At the time of the video, Chelsea have only had 1 win against Luton and a Carabao Cup win against Brighton. But the problems go deeper than that. Are some of the fans overreacting? Here are just some of the fan comments pulled out of Chelsea streams recently. Chelsea's points per game over the last 35 matches is 0.8 points per game, and that would be relegated in normal circumstances and bottom in 8 of the Premier League seasons since its inception. So where is it going wrong, other than the obvious manager merry-go-round there is? I mentioned to you before £1 billion spent on players, and I don't need to bore you with the ins and outs, everyone has done that to death. But many players have not been valued for money in my opinion, or they've been played out of position. And for me, not having a world-class striker for the amount spent is sacrilege. In terms of players in, Chelsea have gone for youth and now have the second youngest side in the league behind Arsenal. Remember, in the Abramovich years, Chelsea bought quality players that were first team ready, but that's not the strategy now. And have they overpaid? Definitely. For example, Caicedo worth 100 million when you could look at players like Jude Bellingham. Cole Palmer was brought in from Manchester City and he's not getting much Premier League game time either. And in terms of finances, it also feels like Chelsea are kicking the can down the road with long-term 8-year deals for a lot of players to avoid FFP punishment. But UEFA have moved already to close that amortisation loophole for future transfer windows. So players on a 7 or 8 year contract will be amortised or spread over 5 years for FFP calculation, which should stop teams doing that in the future, but could be a potential issue for Chelsea right now. Along with the club FFP problems is player motivation an issue. Maybe because most contracts are till 2031 and theoretically they don't have to play, aka Harry Maguire. They could walk away with massive £50 million in wages assured over the contract life. And then how easy is it going to be to get rid of these players to other clubs if you find they don't fit Chelsea's playstyle? Like I said, kicking the can down the road is one thing, but on the pitch, it's going wrong at the minute. So what can you fix now? Well, let's get straight into the tactics. The games so far this season have lined up as a 4-2-3-1. But let's not get obsessed with formations, as they often look very different on a football pitch in terms of defence and attack. But let's take a wander back to the dark depths of history. Well, the season 2021 anyway, and let's look at the attacking phase for Chelsea. Look at these players, eh? Seems a long time ago, but have you ever heard of a 2-3-5 formation? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Well, this is a particularly popular attacking phase with teams like Manchester City, they do it, and recently under Ange Postecoglou at Spurs. All it means is in attack, there's always 2 wide defenders trying to cover the mid and wide space, a 3-man midfield generally made up of a CDM and 2 inverted wingers, like they do at Spurs and Man City, and then the attacking 5 being created with the striker, the 2 wingers and the 2 8s pushing up to dominate the spaces between the opposition lines. This is called the half space and it is the space between the opposition fullback and the centre-back. It's that bit in the middle. As an example, great half space players include De Bruyne and Odegaard in the modern day. So stepping back from time into the present, let's look at Chelsea under Poch. And let me take a recent game against Aston Villa, and this is the average positions through 90 minutes of each of the players. Let's have a look at the Chelsea shape first, and on the graphic you can see the shape is a bit of a mess really, with 8 players loaded on the right hand half of the pitch, leaving the left back a lot to do on his own during the defensive phase. Let's look at Villa's. I'm going to mirror it the other way around, and you can see that Villa's more balanced formation and definitely taking advantage of that left-hand side Chelsea hole. But without going too statty on you, I know this is the high press and this is what we do, but just look at the overall balance of the formations from one team or another. Villa have lots of passing lanes and passing triangles all over the pitch, while Chelsea seemed more clustered. For me, this is the major problem that needs repair, but should be relatively easy to do in training. Okay, so now let's look at the players within those tactics. So Poch has been tinkering a little bit. He's had to tinker in most times because of injuries and in some cases playing players out of position. But Chelsea need to find that groove quickly and change it. Some examples: Enzo Fernandez being played out of position. He isn't a 10. He isn't a 10. He would tell you that. His stats show that. And I think the vast majority of the Chelsea fans would agree with me. There was a game where he had 3 left backs on the bench, then played a centre back, Colwill, as a left back. Chilwell's been played out of position also and been dropped to the bench after a good start to the season. But I think the vast majority of podcasts and YouTube videos have been on chance conversion, and that's been a huge problem this year with Jackson getting a lot of the stick for the drought. I don't buy that 100%. It's not just Jackson. If you've got attacking players on the wings that either cut in or stay as wingers, and then the 2 attacking 8s, then you should be okay to spread the goals around. Yes, Jackson is misfiring, and the horrendous miss against Nottingham Forest really rammed that up. But if you look at his XG, he's actually 3rd in the league for expected goals. There are just not enough players in the box for me. I mean, look at Sterling's touches in the box from the right wing. He's right up there. He should have more goals and more assists. The 8s, as I mentioned, pushing on, would see Chelsea in a completely different position in the league for me. So this is the easiest fix for me, even taking away key injuries, the tactics and fitting the right players into those tactics. Chelsea have the talent to do it in those positions. Trying to get into that 5-2-3 attacking shape would make a major difference in my opinion. Let's not forget the defence. This is not Kevin Keegan land.
And I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
But creating some kind of box midfield, like a Man City 4 or a Spurs 5 in the defensive shape, will also retain the solidity that you've not letting a lot of goals in. It's not too bad, the defence. And Pochettino, play the goddamn players in the goddamn positions. Listen, the underlying numbers are really good. Not everyone's a fan of these numbers, XG, XA, but they show whether you're underperforming or overperforming as a team. But this Opta table shows expected position with XG. And Chelsea really should be in the top 3. On another stat, 3 teams are dominating play in terms of possession. And you might be surprised that it's Man City and in second place is Chelsea and then Arsenal. So you get in the possession, it's what you're doing with it that's important. But there is one major block that needs fixing, and that is the lack of defensive duels won, with not one single Chelsea player in the top 30. The reason is Gallagher defensively only has a 46% duel win rate, which is low for that position. Enzo's another one. This year he's at 1% more at 47 defensive duels won, but in comparison, last year for the entire season, he had 60% duels won. But I think that can be rectified by changing the attacking and the defensive mentality in terms of those shapes. So really, Chelsea aren't that far away from turning this around, in my opinion, and going on a good run. And don't forget, with a brand new squad, you have language barriers, you've got players getting used to each other, getting used to players' strengths and weaknesses, and this is all live practice. There's no rehearsal, this is all live Premier League tough match practice. With the personnel that you have on the books and a drilled tactical setup, this is something that can make a big difference between a win, a loss, between mid-table and top 4. So if you want to see the setup that I would recommend to you, and it's gonna hurt, but please just watch this video on Ange Postecoglou's amazing Spurs tactic revolution. I promise it will be worth it. I'll see you soon.